What's up, gamers? Dreamcastguy here, and before I get on camera today, let me just give you a little bit of a warning. I look kinda different, so don't freak out. Here we go. Yep, that's right. I finally decided to shave my very bad facial hair. I was trying to grow a beard and it didn't really work. And after thousands and thousands of comments saying, why does this guy have pubes on his chin? What's going on, bald face? Stuff like that. I kind of decided, you know what? It definitely looks bad. This also comes down to the fact that because of all this virus mess, I've actually been wearing a medical mask a lot just for safety reasons. And so it kind of got annoying trying to tuck that inside of a mask over and over again. So I've just decided to shave it. This is the way I'm going to look from now on. And thank you everybody for all the memes down in the comments. But now let's get into some craziness involving Resident Evil. We've had some pretty massive leaks. Capcom, they have a problem. I think the issue is that over there at Capcom headquarters, a lot of their developers are maybe too excited. They're so freaking hyped about the fact that they're making the future of Resident Evil that they kind of let stuff leak. And today, we're going to be talking about two very separate and very big chunks of Resident Evil leaks. There's stuff about the next remake, and additionally, a ton of details have just emerged about Resident Evil 8, the next chapter in this horror anthology. Now, the reason that gets me excited is that, A, I really loved Resident Evil 7. The idea of this first-person reinvention, it was a really smart move, and I thought that it kind of modernized stuff like the puzzles and the mechanics. I like the unkillable bad guys, the bakers. Resident Evil 7 was exactly what I was craving, and according to these rumors, Resident Evil 8 is going to be a direct follow-up. So let's take a look here. This is a website called Biohazard Declassified, and they're people who kind of make their living by reporting on all sorts of leaks and rumors, and a lot of stuff here is kind of a culmination. The things that have been coming out over the course of the last couple months, they're pretty strange, but there's multiple sources who are coming forward and talking about this now. As with any rumor, obviously take this with a grain of salt. This stuff is a little bit strange sounding, but I want to go through it because to me, it definitely seems like it could be right on the money. The first thing here is the title. They are going to be calling it Resident Evil 8 with the subheader, The Village, which is kind of crazy. And here they have a nice little mock-up of what the 8 inside a village will look like. That's cheesy, but I'm totally down for it. I mean, the whole thing is, behind Resident Evil, this is a celebration of 90s cheese. This is like jump scares and gooey monsters and rotting, shambling corpses. It's kind of a celebration of what made 80s horror so fun, but now obviously in a modern sense. But here we get to the crazier part. The gameplay details, the character facts, the things that I think are going to be the more important issues. It sounds like it's going to heavily rotate around this character called the Witch. The nature and origin of this witch remains to be seen, but what the leaks can tell us is that the witch will be similar to Margaret. She operates with insects. When defeated, she can even dissipate into them, and it's reported in our original leak, she is known to haunt the player in the demo and has a distinctive laugh. Alright, so I like the idea of a witch, especially if she has magical bug powers. Okay, I'm totally cool with that. I also, my favorite Resident Evil monsters are definitely the ones that kind of pursue you. That's why I like the original version of, I have Resident Evil 3 around me here. Resident Evil 3, I liked how Nemesis kind of hunted you. Mr. X, I like when a bad guy is just constantly pestering you and doesn't just let you ever feel at peace. Now, here's the more interesting thing. Chris Redfield is back, but they've decided to change his looks. Everybody knows that when Chris Redfield was shown in Resident Evil 7, he looked like this, which is completely different to how he's supposed to look, which is over here. So it sounds like they're trying to fix that. They're trying to bring Chris Redfield back, making him a major character, and more importantly, putting him more in line with the way he's customarily kind of appeared. It also sounds like he might be a bad guy. There's a flashback sequence where Chris could be seen shooting at the heroes, which are of course going to be Ethan from Resident Evil 7 coming back. This is all cool. I'm curious, these leaks already are kind of stoking my curiosity as to what exactly this game is going to be and what the story will be. So Ethan is returning. This makes me, this is the writer here. This is making me just think out loud, but given the situation and the fact that Ethan is now in the thick of it a second time, it's likely that Ethan will be more of a character this time also. I think it'll be interesting to see Ethan as a lone wolf-like character on a mission to take out an evil and wipe it from the earth. With Resident Evil 7 having an Evil Dead vibe and several references, it would make sense for Capcom to turn Ethan into a wisecracking badass like Ash Williams. Now this part I fully disagree with. I think that the point of Ethan has always been the silent protagonist. It's an opportunity for us to project ourselves onto somebody else's chaotic situation. I don't think that he'll ever be a chatterbox, but if he is able to talk more, I'm definitely down for it. Now we're getting into the part of this leak that definitely gets me the most hyped, which is this. So, they're talking about the fact that there's other characters. There is some talk that it'll be coming out in early 2021. People are already saying that this is going to be one of the first games to try and show off the power of the next-gen console, so it sounds like Resident Evil 8 will very likely be a PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X game. I want to see the next gen of horror, but more importantly than that is here. Resident Evil 3.5 version 2.0. So, in case you never knew this, between the making of Resident Evil 3 and Resident Evil 4, there were several extended prototypes that were created over at Capcom internally about what they wanted Resident Evil 4 to be. Now, obviously the final version of it turned out to be a third-person shooter with nice spooky mechanics and Las Plagas, intelligent zombies basically. Well, the original idea of it was to have it where Leon Kennedy would be infected with the T-virus himself, and it was slowly driving him insane. So he would have these very crazy hallucinations and be stalked by a creature that was going to be called Hookman. This version of the game, there's clips of it that exist in prototype online, but it was never finished. They decided to obviously pivot into the Resident Evil 4 we got. Well, it sounds like these hallucinations, this idea of it, is going to be coming back for the Resident Evil 3 instead, for Resident Evil 8 instead. Another strange element is hallucinations. One of the things that makes 8 feel a bit like 3.5. These hallucinations will likely make it hard for you to discern what's real and what isn't, and more importantly, who to trust. The most recent rounds of testing in March were likely of Resident Evil 8, and that's why there's this new information. Since Resident Evil 3 is released, we can safely assume that they're testing something new. I love this. There's already been some talks about maybe there will be even crazier things that we fight that aren't actually real, but you have to defend yourself against them. One of the other leaks talked about freaking werewolves. Hallucination werewolves popping up. That sounds super legit. But this brings me to the other thing that's kind of come out that is bringing up a little bit of a debate within the Resident Evil community, which is the idea of what should the next remake be? Now, obviously, as I record this video, we just got the Resident Evil 3 remake. This just came out, but let's face it, that thing is probably going to sell a couple million units. The RE2 remake was a huge financial success, which is why they decided to just definitely throw Resident Evil 3 out the door. And a lot of people now are talking about the fact that it seems like Capcom really wants to try and either annualize this or get them in a faster production cycle. So there was a question that was just sent out in a Capcom survey, and it had a very specific set of questions, an A or a B. A, if they make a new title of Resident Evil series released, would you like to purchase it? And 2, if a sequel to the Resident Evil series is released, would you like to purchase it? Now, this is clearly saying, yes, we're working on both. Which one do you want to buy more? So a lot of us now are kind of asking the question, okay, so we're going to be getting more Resident Evil remakes. That's cool. That's great. Some of these are freaking fantastic. But what should it be? There is a huge catalog of Resident Evil games. Are they going to jump straight to Resident Evil 4, or are they going to do some of the lesser known games like Resident Evil Code Veronica? Now, here's my thoughts. I do not want them to make Resident Evil 4 again yet. I think that they should wait before they do the Resident Evil 4 remake because, in my opinion, Resident Evil 4 has already aged so well. I mean, this game still looks good, it still plays good, it still has such tight controls and stuff that I don't feel like you're going to do much to it other than changing it to have more HD graphics and bringing in the new character models. There can't be that much of a reimagining of a game that is still so recent. Whereas I feel like the other Resident Evils could definitely use a fresh coat of paint. Specifically, I am a huge lover of Resident Evil Code Veronica. And also, let's talk about the fact that there is a huge cabal of unknown Resident Evil games. There's stuff that nobody talks about that absolutely deserve a full-blown remake. Like one I really love, Resident Evil Outbreak. They had a whole series of Resident Evil Online games that were super cool. They took us through unknown spots of Raccoon City. They were multiplayer. They had a huge community around them, and now they've basically vanished. That itself is kind of obscure, but there's even weirder ones that pretty much nobody talks about, like Resident Evil Gaiden back on the Game Boy Color. This game, again, is really, really good. I think that that was a fun one because it took place on a boat. It would be a cool chance to kind of give people that feeling of isolation and being trapped, and also, just as a benefit to Capcom, you could make that game for a much smaller budget because the game itself is rather tiny. When it comes to the Resident Evil 3 remakes, we're going to be getting more of them because they are just so lucrative. I want you guys to try and work hard on them. I want you to try and make the games as big and crazy and epic as possible, but more than that, I want you to try and do things that are different. I want to see something like a fresh coat of paint put on Code Veronica instead of just doing the same numbered series in a row. But these have just been my thoughts. What are your ideas about the Resident Evil 3 remake, and more specifically, are you hyped about these leaks for the Resident Evil 8 Village? I'm definitely going to be checking that out. I really hope the fact that they're talking about a demo already existing, I hope that someday we get a chance to see it. The Resident Evil demos are really, really fun. They've done one for 7, they did it for 2, and they did it for 3. I'm super excited for the day when they decide to reveal a Resident Evil 8 demo, because you know I'm definitely going to play it. Thanks so much for watching, gamers. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, share with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already. But do me the biggest favor of all and keep dreaming. I still feel really weird. I feel weird. I feel like you can see too much of my chin. Thanks, everybody. Y'all rock. Love you a bunch. Stay healthy. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, you know, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.